Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kai here with another Ace video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a guide on Zatlux and why he's good. So I'm going to be doing these guys. This is how I'm going to be doing these for all these characters. I'm going to run through all of them, so if you ever pull this character, you could pull one of these videos up. You'll know where to use them, which gear to use, and why they're good, if they're good. But going to be a guide nonetheless. So getting into Zatlux, why, so if you pulled Zatlux, is he a good character? Should you use him? And absolutely. And so the reason why he's good in all phases of the game, and what you're going to use him for is he's going to help you clear waves in the beginning. Like, that's his main use, is being able to clear waves. He's great in arena for being able to do big burst damage. He's easy to gear, so he's good in all phases of the game because of his kit we'll get into, and then later on he'll be able to clear waves for you in dungeons. So he's good in all phases of the game, whether early, middle, late game, doesn't matter. He's going to be very useful for you. So let's get into kit and explain why he's good. So the first thing is, and another thing too, as I should mention, is that he's actually free to play accessible. Like, every person in this game will guarantee get this character by completing these missions here. So he's another really good character to recommend because every single account will get this guy. So all you got to do is kill 200 bosses, play arena 200 times. This is probably the most tedious and hardest part of this. Own a 6-star hero and obtain 50 items of 5-star gear, which is all very reasonable, super doable things. And the fact that he's still good later on makes this an super easy recommend. A lot of people will be like, I don't know if I want him because he might not scale later on, but he's easily one of the most useful people in dungeons when you're trying to clear some of this harder content here. He's going to clear the waves for you all the way up on stage 12, 11, stuff like this. When it comes to Queen of Tides, one of the best dungeons to run when you're trying to farm gear later on. So, and also he's good in some of the really hard content, like, for example, harder Void Tower and stuff like that. So, absolutely no reason not to build him, in my opinion. And let's get into his kit now. So, first thing is going to be deals 100 damage to an enemy and grants speed up to this character for one turn. Really not the main reason why you use him, but he just has a pretty basic auto attack that you're going to be using, and gives him speed up, which is okay, nothing too crazy. 100% damage, which is totally standard for an attack there. I should talk about his stats here, where he has S tier crit rate and A tier attack. So as your attacker, ideally you'd have S tier. It actually makes a pretty big difference with base attack here, and if you don't have S tier attack and your main purpose is to be doing damage, but we'll talk about why it's not that big of a difference in the when we get later on to his abilities here. And then C tier health, C tier defense, horrible stats here. This is some of the worst possible stats out of an epic character when it comes to survivability, but it doesn't really matter because the whole point of him is to be just one-shotting people. You don't want him to be taking damage. It's not really his deal here. And then B tier speed is fine. You really start to notice it when you're building a damage dealer in C tier speed, in my opinion. Like, for example, Hydri, she's a C tier speed character. You really start to feel that, where you're not going before a lot of the enemies. But B tier, I feel like there's a lot of damage dealers that are B tier speed, and you're fine for the most part with that. It becomes an issue with C tier speed. But it's not ideal. There's some characters, you have A tier or even S tier speed in their damage dealer. Makes it a lot easier to gear up because you never have to worry about doing enough damage or putting all your best gear on them and having to give them speed. But with B tier, you kind of gotta think about it. Then his abilities. So now this is one of the big things that makes him so good early, which is, and just all the way through the game, but especially early when getting crit rate is so hard in your gear. What's nice about him is just built into his A2, he grants himself 30% crit rate, 30% precision. But this big part here is this 30% crit rate. So you could get that 100% crit rate cap very easily, or relatively easy in the early game. So you're going to be critting 100% of the time, and it makes it very consistent because this is the big part of his kit here, which is his ult. This is the whole point of why you use him, is this. So deals 200% damage to an enemy plus bonus damage. The fewer enemies that are remaining, the higher the bonus damage dealt. If the ability kills a target, then launches a bonus attack against the enemy with the lowest health. So the whole point of him is to build him up with as much, 100% crit rate, so in his case 70%, and as much crit damage as an attack as possible. And then you're going to be trying to one-shot someone, and once you do, you'll snowball it all, and you'll kill one and kill the other. Ideally, you'll just kill the whole wave, and that's what his purpose is to be doing as much damage as possible. And then he kind of snowballs. If you kill that one guy, then he'll be able to go around and kill everyone for the most part. But if there's, for example, he is a green character, so he's going to do 50% more damage to blue. But if you're facing all red, then it becomes a problem because you have a 50% chance of it deflecting and doing 50% damage, stuff like that. So it's hard to snowball in those situations. So you're going to be trying to target the weakest person, snipe them, and then you're going to slowly ramp up and kill the rest of them. Then let's get into his passive here, which is upon defeating an enemy, resets the character's abilities cooldowns. So another great reason why his ult is so good is you kill one, and he tries to snowball, kill the other people. If he doesn't kill those people, at least he can ult again when he goes again, which is nice. The big problem with him is, what do you do if you don't kill the person with your ult? That's the big problem. And then he has no ult. He doesn't really do anything. He's super squishy. So that's the big problem with Zatlux. But for the most part, you're bringing them in. You know how much health they're going to have. You know what you're trying to do. And you want to plan for it. You want to take it into content where you know you can at least one-shot someone. He's not good in scenarios where you can't one-shot someone. If it's all tanky, he's kind of pointless. You're going to want to bring someone else. So then, even when he's ascended, upon defeating enemy, resets all this character's abilities cooldown, and then grants attack up. So what's cool about this is that it makes it to where his ult gets even more snowbally, because if he kills that one person, then he gets attack up, and he's getting the higher bonus damage that you're going to be snowballing and killing the rest of them. So for example, if you could kill one character, and then you know you can't kill the other two, but if you could kill the one, and maybe you could kill those other characters if you had an attack up and the extra bonus damage. So it makes it a little easier for you to go around and kill everyone if you have them ascended. And it only takes a 2 ascend. So he is a character that you're guaranteed to at least get once. And if you pull him a couple times, then great. Or if you actually use the purple ascends, you could totally do that. I would say there's other characters that are a little bit higher priority, but he is a character you're going to be using a ton. So it's really not that bad of an investment, in my opinion, to make sure you're getting that second ability for his ascensions. So now let's talk about where he's going to be used. And the big thing, the earlier you get him, the better, because you're going to be using him all through the early game. He's fantastic for early game progression and getting you through the campaign. This is the big thing you're going to be trying to progress through in the beginning parts of the game. Is this is the biggest priority, is trying to break through to mythic campaign. And to do that, you want good characters that excel in these formats. Good AoE. His case, he's kind of having like a pseudo AoE where he kills one, then kills another, and kills another. But it excels in these game modes. So the earlier you get him, the better, because you're going to use him all throughout here. He's going to be a big person to rely on. And in arena, especially climbing up through earlier parts of arena before you get into the harder defenses here. Let me skip through this. So if you go through he's not going to excel. For example, we go like, let's say he's not going to excel against these defenses here, these all tanky defenses. This is going to counter him pretty hard, in my opinion. And I think, pretty straightforward that it's going to counter these. He's going to get countered by these defenses. But for example, at these earlier parts, when you're facing stuff like this, these Windrex really squishy teams, he's going to do absolutely fantastic against, because he's going to be able to one shot, like let's say Windrex, and go through all of them, or kill the Sierra, someone that he's having positive affinity towards, and then be able to one shot all the other characters. So for the most part, when you're climbing through arena, he's absolutely fantastic for that. So he's going to be good in arena, good in early progression. And then later on, he's one of the staple characters in helping you clear the waves into getting to a boss in these harder dungeons. So for example, he's known, I would say most known for this right here in Queen of Tides. He clears out these waves here. So here, I'll just show an example here of what he does. So he goes in and he just one shots these waves here. So this is how his gameplay is going to be for the most part. So everyone goes first. I want these guys to be faster. So on the boss, they actually go, and then he's going to clean them up. You'll see here in a second. And he can just one-shot these people. If you get a good enough gear, you could just one-shot these people without all these debuffs, without all this damage. As you'll see in this next round here, I don't think we'll have enough. We won't have nearly as much damage there. And then here, kind of another thing with him, because he's getting so much bonus damage when he kills someone, you could just focus one down. You get him down enough, and then it's just enough to let the dominoes kind of fall over, and he kills more people. It's random on who he chooses. Well, it's not random on who he chooses. It's the next weakest person. So it's kind of nice there, where you're not just going to get screwed due to RNG, which I really like about him too. And so now he doesn't really do much here, but when you actually get to the boss, now it's all poison. But what's nice about him is that it's a reliable way to kill all the waves of enemies before they go, because they actually do pretty good damage. And I'm taking in these poisoners, you know, they're not really built to be able to beat these guys, and you'll be able to use these for the boss, and then he clears out the waves in the beginning. That's mainly what he's used for. And then another place that he's going to be used for, pretty much any situation where he can actually one-shot those enemies, he's fantastic for. So I'll show another example of where he's used, which is against the, I forget the name of it, but not many people have actually beaten it yet, in Witch of the Wind. So that's another example of where he's going to be useful, because he could clear all those waves too in the beginning. So it's a hard dungeon. I haven't been able to beat stage 12 yet, but he's a character that you could consider if you're trying to get that gear, because there's actually some pretty good gear there that I think would be good even on him when I cut like the assassin gear. And that's how you get assassin gear, is by beating beating the Witch of the Wind. So I think we kind of get an idea of where he's used. If you got him, he's a fantastic one, easily one of my most used epics in the game currently. I think a lot of people's most used epic, especially when you factor in early game and all that. So a great character if you pulled him. I probably should talk about gearing. I would say the best type of gear is, for the most part with him, it's more about just the stats over the actual set types. Even if you're forcing in set types, that's great if you got good warrior gear or whatever. But if you look at all these set types here, anything that's going to increase damage is good. So warrior set, if you could, assassin set I think would be his best set, but it's very hard to actually farm it because of Witch of the Wind is a very difficult dungeon. But for the most part, people are going to be using warrior sets, going to be using rage sets to be able to get the extra crit rate. But I don't think rage sets are really that necessary, especially with him, because you have the 30% extra crit rate just built into his kit. So I would say warrior sets are going to be really good. You could even use curse sets if you just have a lot of them farmed for him to go, you know, get that bonus turn, even though it's really not that necessary. I would say just the main thing is going to be getting all this, because if you look at these, this is a broken set here. I would say raider sets are not bad, pushing up his speed a little bit if you need it. It's probably good to have at least one piece set bonus there, or if you get really good gear, you could get some speed on the secondary with something that actually does a decent amount of damage. But that's rare. That's very, very rare for sure, especially the earlier on in the game. If this is a character you got early, speed doesn't really matter too much. Speed's something that you start to appreciate later on in the game. If you're just going through campaign, don't worry about speed. You're going to outspeed everyone just with your base speed anyway, I believe. So that's something later in dungeons when you want to hit that kind of 140 speed mark, and then way later on in void dungeons and stuff like that, then you're going to be wanting like 170 speed. You're really going to want to boost it up there. But for the most part, just focus on getting your stats up, get that 70% crit rate, get as much crit damage as possible. You don't need nearly this much. I just happen to have good rolls and a lot of dungeon farming here. Attack is actually really important in this game too, so bumping on that, you really notice the difference there when you have a lot of attack as well to go with it. But I think that's going to be the main focus on him. Is really straightforward when it comes to building him. It's just nice, the earlier you get him, the easier it is going to be able to gear him and have him ready to go for you. Whereas getting good crit damage, good attack, and 100% crit rate is very difficult in the beginning of the game. So that's pretty much it when it comes to Zatlux. If you got him, he's a great character, and you're probably going to use him a lot. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. And with that, guys, I'm out. Peace.